Hey guys, welcome back, or welcome if you're new. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make an easy Easter themed vinyl wrap for a 24-ounce Starbucks cold cup. I'm going to cover everything from creating the decal and Cricut design space, the cut settings, weeding, and then the application onto the cup. If you're new, make sure you click that subscribe button before you leave, and also click the like button as well so you can easily reference this video in the future when you're crafting. So let's get started. The 4 different colors of vinyl I'm going to be using for the cup are by Teckwrap from their Opal Pearlescent collection. And I did do a video where I covered the entire collection previously, so if you missed that video, I will link it down below for you. But the colors I'm going to be using from left to right are Fierce Red, Hot Pink, Lime, and Peacock Blue. And I do have a coupon code for you for teckwrapcraft.com. It's seapanda10 to save 10% at checkout. But I quickly want to mention an amazing deal from Teckwrap right now. They recently started selling mystery boxes, and right now they currently have 2 mystery boxes for sale for March. In box A, you get 15 rolls of vinyl and a tool, and in box B, you get 15 rolls of heat transfer vinyl and a tool for $99, and that is a huge discount. If you need to stock up on vinyl, this is a perfect time and a perfect way to do that. My discount code will not work for the mystery boxes as they are already heavily discounted, so if you try to enter my code, it's not going to work for the mystery boxes, but for everything else on the website, including tools, you can save 10% with my code, and I will also have that link down below for you guys as well. In Design Space, the first thing I need to do is upload the cup wrap template onto the canvas, so I'm just going to click the upload button, and I already have a template downloaded, so I'm going to select that, but I will leave a link to the website where you can download this template for free by just plugging in your email. It's from ginacreates.com, and she has a bunch of freebie SVGs for personal use on her website as well if you want to check that out. So now that I have my template on the canvas, I'm going to click the ungroup button, and I'm going to X out that larger double circle, but I'm going to save this smaller circle and drag it off to the left because I'm going to use it later. Then I'm going to go into images, and I'm just searching for Easter eggs, and I just found 4 simple egg designs, and then once I picked those out, I went back to the search bar and then I searched for flower, and I just chose a simple flower design as well and then added those to the canvas. Once on the canvas, while everything is still selected, I'm just going to change the color to white while I'm working on the design. And this is strictly just out of personal preference. It's not something that you have to do. And then I'm just going to begin resizing the eggs by grouping them together all at once and dragging the arrow in the bottom right corner so that they're all kind of uniform in size. And then I just begin placing them around in different directions on the template where nothing is hanging off. And I don't want 2 designs that are the same right next to each other. And keep in mind that whatever you place on the edges of the left and right, they're going to be next to each other. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is there are different ways to make these cup wraps, and probably hundreds of really good tutorials on YouTube showing how to do this and make cool designs, but most of the time I prefer to make beginner-friendly tutorials for those that are new to Cricut crafting. If you want to see more complex tutorials, I can certainly do that. If there's enough interest, just drop your requests down below in the description box. So say I wanted to cut one of these eggs flush with the edges or in the middle of the circle there to where the whole egg is not on the template. That would be the slice function down in the bottom right hand corner. All I would do is select the egg and then the template and then click slice. Now, keep in mind you can only slice 2 things at a time. Just kind of think of it as like a cookie cutter. So you can't have multiple things selected and expect the slice function to work. It actually won't. It will be grayed out. So that's something, again, that I could probably do in another video, but I wanted to keep it as simple as possible in this video, so that's why I didn't go ahead and slice any of these designs. And now that I have all of my eggs on the template, I'm going to resize that flower and then duplicate it several times. And then I'm just going to put them where there are large gaps in between the eggs. And then I adjust the eggs where I need to in order to fit the flowers. Now I'm going to go up to that circle in the left corner and duplicate it 3 times so that I have 4 circles. Then I drag one of the circles to cover the hole in the template, and then in the layers panel I'm going to find the wrap template and delete it or exit out from the canvas. The circles are going to be used to line up the layers correctly after I change the colors and cut them with my Cricut. So next I'm going to change the colors of the eggs into 4 different colors and group them into 4 layers. To do this, I'm going to go over to the layers panel on the right hand side, and then holding my control button down on my keyboard, I'm going to select the flowers and then the chevron eggs for the first layer. If you're doing this on a tablet, then you would just use your finger and then select the different cuts that you want, and then I'm going to change the color to red. And then after that, I'm going to click the weld button in the bottom right hand corner. The weld button is going to weld all of the pieces together in place. If I were to just change the colors of the eggs and then click make it without clicking the weld button, what would happen is the Cricut would organize the different pieces to save space on the cut mat, or in other words, it would scatter them. They would still be separated by color, but they would be scattered all over the mat. So clicking the weld button is very important here, and keep in mind that whatever you weld together, the Cricut will think it's all the same color, so that is why I have to do 4 separate welds in this tutorial. The next weld is going to be the blue layer, so I'm going to drag another circle over, right click to send it to the front, and layer it directly on top of the red circle. And then I'm going to go back to the layers panel again and select the eggs I want to be blue, including the circle, which is already selected, and then change the color to blue and then click weld. And I'm just going to repeat the same process and steps for the remaining 2 layers, dragging a circle over the center, using the layers panel to select the eggs, changing the color, and then clicking weld. If you miss something when you're welding color groups together like I did here with the white flower, all you need to do is select the color group and then the piece in the layers panel, and then you can either select the color again or just click weld and it will automatically change the color. So now you can see that I have my 4 different layer groups. So when I go to layer this decal after cutting, all I need to do is line up the circles on top of each other and everything will be lined up correctly. So now I'm just going to go ahead and click make it, and here are my 4 different cut mats. So I will just place my vinyl through the machine in this order, and then I'm going to click continue. And the cut setting I like to use for this vinyl is just the vinyl setting, but I'm going to change the pressure from default to more pressure. Before you cut off the excess vinyl from the roll after running it through the Cricut, especially if you're leaving it on the mat like I am, make sure your bottom layer, so for me the layer with the flowers, but make sure you don't cut it too small off the roll so that you leave room to layer your other pieces, and you'll see what I'm talking about later on in the video. When weeding this vinyl, I highly recommend using a weeding hook versus using a weeding pen. After playing around with the vinyl a bit, I've noticed that a weeding hook works best for the Opal pearlescent vinyl from Teckwrap. I do prefer a weeding pen 9 times out of 10. But I am able to weed this vinyl a lot faster with a hook versus if I were to use a weeding pen. Weeding vinyl is one of my favorite things to do when crafting. It's very relaxing and therapeutic for me. I've mentioned it before, but it's the equivalent of peeling a sunburn, for me at least. And if you've never weeded Teckwrap craft vinyl before, it's extremely easy to do when you cut the vinyl with the correct settings. For most of the vinyl, I just use the vinyl setting with less pressure for most of Teckwrap Crafts vinyls, but as you saw for this vinyl, I needed more pressure. So I do recommend doing a small test cut whenever you are working with any new type or brand of vinyl. So now it's time to layer all of the pieces. I'm using medium tack transfer tape from Teckwrap Craft. It's a purple grid. And I'm going to cut a piece that is large enough to cover my bottom layer, or that's as large as my bottom layer. And I will be using the same piece of transfer tape for the rest of this video. So this one piece that I cut, I will be using for all of the transfers. And I do recommend stacking your layers off of the cup first, because if you mess up layering on the cup, it's going to be difficult to fix. So I have my bottom layer taped down in the corners to help keep it from moving, because I'm going to be stacking all of the other layers on top of this sheet. So now I'm just going to remove the backing from the transfer tape, and I'm going to start with the green layer. It doesn't really matter from here what order I stack the colors in, as long as I have my bottom layer taped down. And you can see here why it's important that you don't cut your bottom layer too short, that you leave plenty of room for stacking, because if I cut the bottom layer too short, pieces of vinyl would hang off when I go to layer them on top of each other. So that's why that's important. But I am just burnishing down both sides of that green layer to the transfer tape, and then I'm going to remove the backing of the green layer from the transfer tape instead of removing the transfer tape from the backing, if that makes sense. It's a lot easier to do this way. And the sharper the angle that you have when you're peeling that paper back, the easier it's going to be to remove the backing. So now that I have removed the backing, I'm just going to line up the circle right on top of the blue circle, and then I'm going to lay it down and then burnish again. And I'm just going to burnish the pieces that I layered. So just the green pieces. I don't need to burnish everything. And then I'm going to slowly remove the transfer tape. And if there's pieces that want to come up, just go back over it. And you can use your squeegee tool and kind of like hold it down and peel at the same time. So now I'm going to repeat the same process for the blue and pink layers. So right here I have the pink layer, and again I'm just flipping it over, sticking it onto the transfer tape, burnishing it down, then removing the backing of the decal, and then lining up the dots, and then removing the transfer tape again. And so now that all of my layers are on top of the carrier sheet, I'm going to go ahead and use that same piece of transfer tape that I used for all of the individual layers, and I'm going to burnish it on to the whole piece, and then I'm going to flip it over. So I have to remove the tape from the corners, but I'm going to flip it over and burnish the back as well. And then after I'm done burnishing, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut off the excess transfer tape and the excess carrier from the carrier sheet. I can do that now that everything is layered. Some people like to use like an actual paper template to cut, but I just do it like this. I kind of do it kind of rounded there at the bottom for the natural shape of the cup. But I just trim off the excess and then I burnish it again on both sides real quick, and then I just peel the backing away from the transfer tape like I did for all of the other previous layers. Anytime you have issues where the decal wants to hang on to the carrier sheet, just go back over it, put the paper back over it. You can use your fingers to kind of burnish that piece that wants to hang on. You can burnish it with your finger, a squeegee tool. I like to go slow at an angle like I'm doing right here. And then a lot of the times I will kind of like do like this shimmy motion where I kind of like wiggle it back and forth, and that helps out a lot as well. But a lot of times when you reuse the same piece of transfer tape, what will happen is the transfer tape will start to lose tack. So that's another reason why it might not be transferring very well. But as you can see there, it wasn't very difficult at all for me to reuse the same piece of transfer tape, and everything came off in one piece. So now I have my cup cradle, and I'm going to get my Starbucks cup, and then I'm going to use a alcohol swab and quickly clean off any oils or debris that might have come from my fingers, and then let that dry, and then I'll be ready to apply the decal. To apply the decal, I'm just going to line up the circle to the circle on the cup, just like I did for the layers. And then I'm going to use my hands to slowly work the vinyl from the circle outward and burnish it down to the cup using both my hands and my scraper tool. And the transfer tape overlaps, so it's very important that you do one side first. You burnish one side down first on the edge. Otherwise, one side of the decal is going to stick to the transfer tape on the other side. And I think this is why some people like to cut out an actual template for the transfer tape for this reason. But as long as you do one side first, then you're fine. And then once I have one edge lined up, I can burnish it and start peeling back the transfer tape, making sure to go slow while continuing to use my fingers and squeegee at the same time to burnish down the pieces that want to stay on the transfer tape. And then I just peel off the circles that are covering up the Starbucks logo. This vinyl is not going to be a permanent bond to the cup. It can be removed, but of course you can seal it with a non-toxic, food-safe clear coat. You can use a heat gun as well to give it a longer lasting bond. And for the care of the cup, just make sure that you hand wash it with a non-abrasive sponge only. Don't put it through the dishwasher, and it will last a very long time. But that's it for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed or learned something new. If you did, I would appreciate a like. It helps my channel out tremendously. Links to the products used in this video will be down below, and I'll see you in my next one. Happy crafting.